Well, hey everybody, my name's Dennis, and I wanted to put together a quick video to just show you the dust collection overhead saw guard system that I did for my Felder slider that I have, a K700 S. I didn't buy the factory option because it was an additional 8-week wait for it, so I had some leftover steel from a deck railing project. I decided to put it together, and at the same time my brother-in-law Larry from Minnesota was down visiting on vacation with his wife, and it was the perfect shop project. So we spent a couple days to put this together, and I'll go over it real quickly. We'll start at the back of the saw, show you the framework. It's less cluttered there, you can see it better, and then we'll swing around to the front, go over a couple of things there, and then finish up over here on this side and end with a demonstration. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we're here at the back of the saw. It's basically 3 pieces here. There's a main vertical tube, of course. It's supported by a 3-legged system down here with adjustable legs so you can get this plumb. There's a couple of pieces of angle welded on either side of that tube to create a flange. Then this center piece here is fixed. It's attached to this vertical tube via its own flange with some adjusting nuts that allows you to get this thing perfectly level with the table saw. And then the last piece here is the actual saw guard assembly itself, and you can see here it's attached by a pair of hinges that allows this whole thing to fold back out of the way should you ever need to do that for a particular cutting operation. I haven't had to do that yet, but it's there in case I ever need it. Okay, so we'll head around to the front and talk about some items there. Okay, so here we are at the front of the saw, and you can see I use that fixed piece to hold a lot of different fixtures I use for different operations, right? Now here is the saw guard framework piece. You can see here is where the adjusting nuts hold this in place. By removing these nuts, you can fold this whole framework back out of the way if you ever need to. I haven't had to do that yet. I've had to elevate the guard up off the table all the way, but I have yet to have to move this back. Okay, now the purpose of these 4 bolts here is if you loosen these bolts, that allows this entire framework to slide laterally. And the reason for that is if you're cutting at an angle, let's say of 45 degrees, you can loosen those bolts and move the guard so it's directly above the blade for that cutting operation. So that's what that is for. Okay, so now let's talk about the dust collection piece. Okay, so in terms of the dust collection, my goal was to get as much airflow as possible as close to the blade as I could. So you can see this 4-inch flex pipe here connects directly above, as close as you can get to the top of the blade. And then it comes back here, a very short run of the flex into a solid 4-inch tube, gets to a blast gate that you can use to throttle and control some of that airflow depending on the thickness of the piece or the size of the piece you might be cutting. Goes through this Y here we'll talk about in a second, into a hard pipe up to an adapter, 4-inch to 6-inch, and that goes all the way up to my main line, very short run back to the dust collector there. So a tremendous amount of airflow coming through that pipe and going to directly above the blade. Now for the bottom suction to connect to the saw, that's this 6-inch tube here runs to the blast gate, which I still have to fix yet, down underneath the saw, takes a hard 90, and then goes on a short 6-inch flex, cuts down with an adapter to the fitting on the table saw itself, which is approximately 5 inches. It's metric, of course. So between those two, I get a tremendous amount of airflow, and it works very, very well. I'm very pleased with how it came out. This Y back here, all that is a I had some leftover 2.5 inch, so basically that's just a little cleanup deal that I can take and use to pick up any residual dust from anything I might have been doing nearby with the saw, get some cookie crumbs off my shirt, etc. And it just hooks back into this fitting here. And that works pretty well too. So very pleased with the airflow, especially when the blast gates of the other equipment is closed. Tremendous amount of suction, which you'll see in the demonstration here at the end. Okay, so now let's move on to the slider side of the saw. Okay, here we are on the slider side. And as you can see, I've added a control box here, and the main reason for that was the mechanism. I decided to go with electric lift. And so what this box does for me is it puts it in one of two modes. Manual mode just basically activates this up-down button. And what that does is obviously raise or lower the guard to the height that you want. If you put it in auto mode, what that does is basically, if I can get this to focus a little for you, you have an entry panel here where you can key in millimeters or inches. And basically, if you want to cut a 18-inch ply, for example, you just type in 1/8, hit go, and then the guard will adjust itself for that height. If you're doing inches, you can hit millimeters, change it to inches, and do 6/4, for example, for a 6/4 board, and it'll again adjust the height for that. Now, that all sounds really cool, but in reality, I rarely use that. It's just easier to go over here and push the button and bring the guard up or down to the height that you need. Here's a little light switch for the, here's the light switch for the blade. If you need a little bit of extra light, it's got some LEDs up inside that tube there, and they're protected by some plexiglass and, in case any debris flies up. And then I have a little clipboard here for my cut list, etc. There is a button I have on here for the future. What I was thinking about doing is reshaping the front of this blade guard assembly to come out kind of like a back of a 57 Buick, bring it out a little bit and then turn back in, put a laser sensor there, and then that could measure the distance to the board, basically translate that to the thickness, and automatically adjust this to the height that you need. The way it knows where the guard is by a laser sensor up here that shines down on the top of the assembly. So that's something I can think about, but in all reality, I'll probably repurpose this for something else, maybe the blast gate control for the other equipment, etc. I don't know yet. Anyway, let me take you around to the front one more time and show you that actuator. It's called a micro linear actuator. It's from Progressive Automations. Has a 6-inch travel. This pin goes up and into a little pipe here that has a spring inside, about a 10-pound spring. And what that does for me is take the initial weight off of this assembly, so if a board comes in and it hits the wheel, it can easily lift it up and still keep some pressure on the piece if that's what you want. Okay, I hope this helps anybody who's thinking of doing something on their own for a dust collection, overhead guard assembly. If you pick up anything out of this, I hope it helps you out in your project. So, all right, so we'll go on to the little demo here at the end. I'll show you cutting a piece, and if I until I do another video, if I ever do one, everyone take care. Thank you.